What is up, everyone? I guess I go ahead and start off a little bit real quick with bringing up how I normally do a podcast like right before the YouTube episodes. So I want to keep on trying to put my podcast down below so you guys can give that a listen. Most of the time, my podcasts are usually they're just personal stuff, kind of like the video blogs. I try to keep a lot of the stuff that I deal with personal because I don't want to come across as a professional and act like, hey, I'm an expert on something. Listen to me if you want to know that. Nah, that's not me. All my stuff is personal. I have like personal biases on things. I have a personal take on everything. It's basically just I'm making it more about me instead of trying to make me more about everything else because I have like really bad ADD. So it's like I could be fascinated in one thing right now and then be fascinated in something else later on. I should shave this. Speaking of having ADD, I have been sort of ping ponging between learning about languages, the Federal Reserve, and DC continuity. For the DC as in Detective Comics continuity. And like I've been obsessing over the DC Comics continuity because as a kid growing up, I've always wanted to read comics because I was familiar with the Batman the animated series, and I knew about like when as a kid growing up, you used to always sort of hear about the Adam West series. I didn't see it because this was like the '90s, and I guess they just stopped showing it. But there was a lot of stuff going on, and if you hear something going on in the background, I'm not home alone. So, but yeah, there was a lot of stuff that was sort of like going into the DC continuity that for me, like I say, when I was a kid, I always wanted to get the hang of the continuity because I always wanted to know, hey, what episode is this? What comic is this episode based off of? So I don't have to, so I don't get lost. And that was the thing. Uh, but that was never the case. And that part really actually annoyed me. So like right now, thanks to having the internet and being able to have access to the comics, I have now been just sort of like just trying to figure it out. I've been doing a whole like I've been digging deep, and like the thing is that like the DC wikia has technically answered most of my questions, but not in the way that I would like because it's really overly complicated. And I realize now that I have to read like single character stories instead of just like events and timelines and things like that. And I don't really want to do that. But also, I've also been like obsessed with American money for a short while. Like initially, I always wanted to know specifically why is it so hard to get money? Why is everything so expensive? And what exactly is decentralized money and centralized money? So I've been trying to figure that out. So I've been learning about the Federal Reserve, and I just now recently learned that the Federal Reserve is not even like one entity. It's spoken as like one entity, but it's actually like 12 buildings ran by the one building in DC. And like so it's 12 separate buildings, but they're ran by that one. It's kind of like how in America is technically like 50 states, but it's ultimately sort of ran by the cats in Washington D.C. It's a lot like that. um but yeah, so and they're in charge of the monetary policy, and I have no clue what the monetary policy is yet. So I've been sort of like rabbit holing that, and the Federal Reserve website actually is very, very, very in depth. It's just like the Congress website and stuff like that. Uh, I recently learned that Nebraska is the only unicameral state in America too. Unicameral, that means that like every other state has like a House of Representatives and a Senate. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they only have a Senate in Nebraska. So I'm like, what? Nebraska actually has something cool going on with it? Go on, Nebraska, with your bad self. Because when you think about like other states, when I think about other states, I don't think about Nebraska. Like if you were to ask me, like just name a state that I never thought about, I would probably say North Dakota or South Dakota, but not Nebraska. I don't even know where Nebraska is on the map. I should really learn that. Uh, moving along though, yeah, like I said, the ADD, it goes into multiple places. It's really weird. Like I realize now that one of the few reasons why I ain't got my stuff together is because I try to do a little bit of everything instead of like trying to dive into just one thing. And the problem with that is that it's kind of like going to every state and picking up a random penny from every state. You know, after you're done, you have 52 pennies. You know, well, 50 pennies, 50, 52, Alaska, Hawaii, whatever. But the fact of the matter is that like I realize now that that is definitely like one of the few things that I kind of have going against me right now. It's like I want to do too many things at once, and when I because I compare myself to other people, something I'm really trying to stop. Because I compare myself to other people, when I see somebody succeed in something that I feel like I'm just starting, it feels, it kind of it does the complete opposite of motivating me. What it does is that like it makes me think, wow, I'm never going to be as good as that person, and that part really kind of bums me out, and it really kind of makes me like the thing. I think that it's like it's a good gesture, but at the same time, it really just sort of kills what little self-esteem I had prior to this, because now I'm just thinking I'm worse than that guy. I would never be as good as that person or this person or all of these people. You know, it's kind of like when I was a kid growing up, they used to do this little showcase where they would like show all these kids doing all these cool things, and like I would be like, bruh, I can't do any of that stuff. Or rather, I don't have the resources to do any of that stuff. When you grow up poor in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, you don't really have a lot of options. You go to work or hopefully get out being an athlete or a rapper. I mean, or a politician. If you don't get, I don't know, like murdered or ousted as some kind of deviant. It's just like there's a lot that goes into it. But yeah. But yeah, though, like the ADD that I have, the whole me trying to like get into a whole bunch of stuff at once concept, it really kind of, I should work on it. I really do. So I realize now that I have a scattered focus, and I really do need to sort of focus on just one thing, and that's going to probably end up being my thing. Speaking of focus, normally I go into first is personal, professional, political, then whatever. Um, Political, like I said, I've been following the January 6th thing still, and it's still wild. Professional, I still have a job. Um, I ain't gonna lie though, like going to the convention kind of set me back financially. Um, so like training is kind of off the table for right now. Uh, but like as a when I say right now, I'm probably saying for like this week or so. Money's been tight, but it will hopefully loosen up. Let's hope. Anyway, like it wasn't like going to the convention. Like I didn't spend any money at the convention. What killed me financially was ultimately the rides, getting there and back. Because like the rides were longer than expected, so it charged a little bit more. So I'm like, dang man. One thing I really hate about like big cities is that like big cities are big. So like for example, you go to Houston and you're thinking, yay, I'm in Houston, but you're actually in like a Atascocita or Humble or Sunray or something. You're like not Sunray. I don't know where Sunray is, but it's like you think that you're in the fun part of the big city, but trying to find out you're actually like maybe a half hour, if not an hour away from the fun part of the big city, because the fun part of the big city is also the expensive part of the big city. So it's like one thing I used to hate was when people who lived in like big cities, they would never specifically say what part they're in. They would just say, oh, I'm in big city name. It's like, no, you're in Humble. It's like, no, I'm in Atlanta. No, you're in Union City. Be specific, because Atlanta's all the way over there and you're all the way over here. My God, are my arms really skinny? I really went a long time thinking that my arms were big, and they're not. I do want to go ahead and just say, check on your depressed friends, but don't be too, don't be too forward with it. Just ask them how they're doing, because you never truly know like who's struggling right now, and that could ultimately, like, things can go wrong if you are too apathetic. Don't always, like, treat them like how you would treat a house cat. Give them a pet once in a while, and then let them go on their way. Chances are they'll come back to you. If not, it's not because of anything you did. They're just, depressed people just need a lot of them time, not too much them time. It's complicated.